Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're going to be diving into success, but not the way you might think.
Yeah.
We're going beyond, like, the hustle harder, you know?
Right?
And we're looking at Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers.
Yeah. A great book.
So good.
It really is.
And we're going to be extracting some really interesting ideas
Yes.
about what truly helps people reach the top.
It's fascinating how we tend to think that successful people are just,
Yeah.
incredibly talented, or that they just work so much harder than everyone else. But when you look at Gladwell's work, he sort of unveils all these hidden advantages and factors that come into play, like your cultural legacies, historical coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
All these things can give people a really surprising edge.
That's it. It's like we assume success is this solo climb, up a mountain.
Yes.
And it's not.
Yeah, the lone hero, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps.
Right. But that's not really how it works.
It's not. It's like this complex maze, and some people just, start further ahead than others.
They do, and they don't even realize it.
Right, yeah.
And I think the exciting part about Gladwell's work is when we understand these hidden factors, we can kind of look at success in a different way.
Totally.
We can see it, more broadly, maybe learn how to create more opportunities for everyone to do well.
Totally.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, Gladwell starts Outliers with this story about Roseto, Pennsylvania.
Roseto.
Now, back in the 1950s, Roseto was this medical mystery.
Oh, wow.
The residents there had crazy low rates of heart disease.
Oh, wow.
Way, way lower than the national average. And researchers were baffled. They're like, what is going on? Why are these people so healthy?
You'd think they'd have like a secret diet or some exercise routine.
Crazy exercise routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what they found was that the secret weapon was Roseto itself.
Interesting.
This little town.
Yeah.
It had this incredibly strong sense of community.
Oh, wow.
The families all lived close to each other, and they had strong social connections.
Yeah.
Everyone just looked out for one another.
It's like the town itself was like, boosting their health.
It really is.
It makes you wonder if that kind of social capital, if we could call it that, if that would have the same impact, like on career success or something like that.
Like just that feeling of support and connection, could that give you an extra edge?
Right.
Yeah, that's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
That the people around us play a much bigger role in our success than we realize.
Totally.
And this leads us to another idea that Gladwell explores, the Matthew effect. Okay, yeah, the Matthew effect. So for this one, he takes us to the world of Canadian hockey.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting.
You wouldn't think it would be.
I know. I was like, Canadian hockey, what's...
But it makes sense.
I know. It makes sense.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
youth hockey leagues have these cutoff dates for registering players.
Right.
Usually the beginning of the year. So you've got kids born in January who are practically a whole year older than kids born in December of that same year.
Yeah.
And in those early developmental years, that age difference is a huge deal.
It is a huge deal.
It really is.
In terms of, size and strength, coordination.
Exactly. So the kids who are born earlier in the year, they tend to be bigger and more skilled just because they've had more time to develop.
Right.
And so they get picked for the better teams, to get better coaching, more opportunities to excel.
Right.
And then over time,
that initial advantage just grows and grows.
So it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Exactly.
The kids start ahead and they just keep getting further ahead because of the opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. And it applies to other areas too.
Right, right.
Like think about education.
Yeah.
If you start off doing well,
you
get more attention and encouragement from your teachers.
Right.
And that can further boost your performance.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, the Matthew effect is really about how even small early advantages can have this huge impact on someone's life.
Yeah. It's making me think about how we approach talent development in general, Like, are we overlooking those early advantages? Or are we overlooking the importance of providing early opportunities?
Right, exactly. Like, how do we create a system that's fairer, where success is more about effort and potential than just being lucky enough to be
in the right place at the right time.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next concept from Outliers was the one that I was like, oh, wow. Like, it really hit me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the 10,000-hour rule.
Oh, yes.
Right? And this is based on research by psychologist Kay Anders Erickson. And he was looking at these elite musicians, like the top musicians at a music academy in Berlin.
Yeah.
And what Erickson found was that the musicians who reached the very, very top, the masters, the true masters,
the best of the best,
they all had one thing in common.
Oh, really?
They had put in an insane amount of practice time.
Okay, how much are we talking?
10,000 hours.
Wow, that's years.
It's years.
Yeah.
It's years and years of dedicated, focused effort.
That's amazing.
It is. It really shows that, even in fields like music, where we talk about, they're so naturally talented to get to mastery.
Yeah. You got to put in the work.
It takes work.
It takes so much work.
Yeah. And even with all that practice, opportunity still has a huge role.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And Gladwell illustrates this point with the stories of Bill Joy and Bill Gates.
Yes.
These are like the software pioneers, right? And both of them, so brilliant, clearly. But they also had access to these extraordinary opportunities that allowed them to put in those 10,000 hours.
Right, right.
Like, think about Joy. Right. He had access to a time-sharing computer system at the University of Michigan back in the early 70s.
Yeah.
This is like a rare and valuable resource back then.
Right.
Most people didn't even have access to a computer.
No.
But he had this unlimited access to practice his programming skills.
Right.
And then there's Gates.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
His story is even crazier.
Right.
This guy had access to a computer terminal in middle school.
In middle school?
In the 60s.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
It's unheard of.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He basically had unlimited time to hone his programming skills.
Right.
Years before most people even knew what a computer was. Like, no wonder he went on to co-found Microsoft.
It just highlights how, like, timing and access to resources are as important as just raw talent and hard work.
Yeah.
It's like, how many brilliant minds are out there who just never got the chance?
Right.
They
never got the chance.
They never got the opportunity to, practice and
to develop their potential
and hone their skills and do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're stuck at the starting line while other people are halfway through the race.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Gladwell, I don't think he's trying to discourage people, from putting in the work.
Yeah.
He's just showing us that we have to create more opportunities.
Yeah.
So everyone is a shot, right?
Exactly. And that takes us to another interesting question that he tackles in Outliers. What happens when you have someone with crazy intelligence, but they're not successful?
Right.
He compares the stories of two geniuses.
Okay.
Chris Langan and Robert Oppenheimer.
Okay, so Chris Langan has this, like, astronomically high IQ.
Yeah.
And he struggles with success.
Yeah.
And Robert Oppenheimer was successful. But he wasn't, like, as intellectually gifted as Chris Langan.
Yeah, interesting comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because Langan taught himself to read when he was, like, a baby, basically.
Wow.
Like, super, super young. And aced, like, every standardized test he ever took. But he had trouble with things like deadlines and authority figures. And he ended up losing scholarships, bouncing between jobs.
Wow.
Like, really struggling.
Yeah.
Whereas Oppenheimer, he was known for his social skills. Like, he was really good at reading people and understanding complex situations and was really good at persuading people and building relationships. And he actually ended up leading the Manhattan Project, even though he didn't have any, like, administrative experience.
Oh.
So it seems like raw intelligence isn't the only thing.
No, it's not the whole story.
Right. It seems like there are other forms of intelligence that matter just as much for success.
Yeah. And Gladwell talks about practical intelligence, which is the ability to, like, read people, understand social cues, navigate those complex situations.
Yeah.
It's kind of like knowing how to get things done in the real world.
Right. Not just in, like, a classroom.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Not just on a test.
Practical intelligence. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. It's like street smarts.
Yeah.
Versus book smarts.
Yeah, exactly.
But where does that come from? Is that something you're just born with, or?
Well, Gladwell suggests that it's heavily influenced by how we're raised.
Okay.
And our environment. And that leads us to another layer of the success equation.
Okay.
Parenting and culture.
Right.
So Gladwell brings in the work of sociologist Annette Lareau.
Okay.
Who studied different parenting styles between middle-class and working-class families.
Okay.
And she found some pretty striking differences. So middle-class families, she noticed that they tend to use a style called concerted cultivation.
Concerted cultivation.
Which basically means that they actively foster their children's talents. They sign them up for all kinds of activities. Right. They encourage them to ask questions, to kind of challenge authority. Yeah. And they intervene on their behalf when necessary.
So they're giving their kids this, like, crash course in how to, like,
exactly.
navigate the world.
How to navigate the world of institutions.
Right, and all the opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, working class parents, on the other hand, they tend to have a more hands-off approach, which Lareau calls accomplishment of natural growth.
Accomplishment of natural growth, okay.
Yeah, so they provide love and support, but their kids have a lot more freedom and less structured guidance.
Okay, so both have their merits. But are you saying that concerted cultivation is...
Yeah, so what Lareau found was that the middle-class kids who were raised with that style, they often develop a sense of entitlement. Not in a bad way, but they believe that they have the right to speak up, to ask questions, to shape their own outcomes. Right. And that's really valuable in school, in the workplace.
It's like they're learning the hidden curriculum of success.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how does that, like, play out?
Yeah.
Like, does Gladwell give an example?
He does.
Of how those different parenting styles affect a person's trajectory.
Yeah, and it's a great story.
Okay.
It's the story of Joe Flom. Yeah, Joe Flom's story. It's like a classic rags to riches story.
Okay.
He was the son of Jewish immigrants, worked in the garment industry during the Great Depression.
Wow.
So he faced a lot of challenges, anti-Semitism, economic hardship.
Right.
But he overcame all these obstacles and he became this, like, legal titan.
So are you saying that those things that we might think of as, like, disadvantages actually helped them succeed?
That's exactly what Gladwell argues.
Wow.
Like, for example, Flom being Jewish.
Yeah.
Back then, prestigious law firms, the white shoe firms.
Right.
They often discriminated against Jewish lawyers.
So he got shut out of those firms.
Yeah.
And had to take on, like, less desirable work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was forced to take on litigation and proxy fights.
Okay.
Which were associated with, like, hostile takeovers.
Okay.
Not glamorous work.
Right.
But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Oh, I'm starting to see where this is going.
Yeah. In the 70s and 80s, hostile takeovers became, like, a huge part of the corporate world.
Oh.
And suddenly the work that Flom had been doing for years was in high demand.
Right.
And he was the only lawyer in town with all that experience.
Right. Wow.
In that specialized field.
It's amazing how what seemed like a setback actually put him in a position to, like, capitalize on this major shift.
Yeah, a total shift.
In the business world.
Yeah. Really makes you think about, like, what is an advantage and what's a disadvantage?
Right.
You know?
Totally.
Sometimes what seems like a negative thing can be the key to success.
Right. Right.
But it wasn't just his specialization that gave Flom an edge.
Okay.
Gladwell also talks about this idea of demographic luck.
Demographic luck, okay.
Yeah, and Flom, he was part of this generation that benefited from a smaller birth rate.
Because of the Depression.
Exactly, because of the Great Depression.
Okay.
So imagine going through school and competing for jobs.
Yeah.
When there are fewer people around.
Right, less competition.
Way less competition for everything.
Okay.
So fewer people means more resources, more opportunities.
Like having fewer people vying for seats on the bus.
Exactly. Yeah. They had a much clearer path to success.
Wow, okay.
And it wasn't just professional opportunities. Like this generation, they also had less competition for spots in elite colleges.
Right.
So Flom's success, it wasn't just about his own hard work and talent.
Right.
It was also about being born at the right time.
Right. Wow.
And taking advantage of these unique circumstances.
Hold on, but didn't you also mention something about his parents working in the garment industry?
Yeah.
Like, how does that fit in?
That's another crucial part.
Okay.
Flom's parents, even though they didn't have, like, a formal education, they instilled in him these values of hard work, persistence, and they gave him this, like, keen understanding of business, which are all essential skills that helped him in the corporate world.
Right. So it's like he inherited this, like, blueprint for success.
It's like a blueprint
from his family.
Yeah, from his family's background.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's this fascinating, like, convergence of factors.
Yeah, all these things coming together.
Yeah.
You know, his own drive, those historical circumstances, and then those cultural legacies.
It's like, it really makes you wonder about this whole idea of the self-made person.
Right.
You know?
That's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much more complex than that.
Way more complex.
And this brings us to another example of how these cultural legacies can shape success.
Yes.
Gladwell takes us to the world of aviation.
Okay.
And explores this link between cultural background and plane crashes.
Interesting.
Focusing on Korean Air.
Okay.
Okay, this sounds a little unsettling.
Yeah, it is.
Like, how is there a connection there?
Well, in the late 90s, Korean Air had a much higher crash rate compared to other major airlines.
Okay.
And it wasn't because of technical issues or pilot incompetence.
Okay.
Gladwell suggests that cultural factors were a big part of the problem. Yeah. He dives into the work of Geert Hofstede, who created this framework for understanding cultural dimensions.
Okay, yeah.
And one of these dimensions is power distance, which is basically how much a society respects and accepts hierarchy and authority.
Right, so are you saying that Korean culture has...
Yeah, South Korea, like many Asian countries, has a culture that really emphasizes deference to authority.
Okay, yeah.
And this can create communication challenges, especially in a setting like a cockpit.
Right, because you have to be able to, like, speak clearly. And,
it's critical.
You know.
Yeah.
And be assertive, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gladwell looked at cockpit voice recordings from Korean air crashes.
Oh, wow.
And he noticed this disturbing pattern. The first officers, even when they saw the captain making mistakes, they were often hesitant to speak up.
Because of that.
Because of the cultural norms.
Like what, authority?
Around respecting authority.
Wow.
So this ingrained respect for authority was actually preventing them from communicating effectively.
And potentially avoiding these, like, disasters.
Potentially deadly disasters. Like this powerful example of how deeply ingrained cultural pattern can have unintended consequences.
Right. It shows that even something like as technical as aviation isn't just about, like, the skills and the knowledge. It's also about...
It's about the human element.
Right, yeah.
Understanding those complexities of human interaction.
Yeah, totally.
But here's the good news.
Okay.
Korean Air, they realized they had a problem.
Okay.
And they took steps to fix it.
Okay.
They did all this training. Emphasized clear communication.
Okay.
Encouraged pilots to speak up, regardless of their rank.
Good.
And get this, they even retrained their pilots in English.
Wow. What English?
Because English is considered a lower power distance language.
Oh, okay.
So it allows the pilots to communicate more directly and assertively.
Without that, like, hierarchy.
Without being constrained by the hierarchy.
Right, of their native language.
Of their own language.
So they basically created, like, a linguistic workaround for this cultural barrier.
It's pretty amazing.
Did it work?
It did. Their safety record improved drastically.
This is really inspiring to see how they turn that challenge into, strength.
Yeah.
You know.
It shows that we can change things if we have the will.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what else does Gladwell explore?
Well, he takes us to the rice paddies of Asia.
Okay.
And he finds this fascinating connection between rice farming and mathematical ability.
What? How are those two things connected?
It's fascinating. So rice farming, especially in places like China and Japan, it's incredibly demanding. It requires meticulous planning, perfect timing, a deep understanding of complex systems.
Yeah.
Like irrigation.
It's like a giant outdoor math problem.
It really is.
Yeah.
And centuries of this have created this cultural legacy of diligence, persistence, problem solving.
So those skills are transferable to other areas, like math.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
And there's more. Okay. Asian number systems are often more logical and easier to learn
than Western number systems.
So they have a built-in advantage.
It's like a head start.
Right from the beginning.
Right from the start.
It makes you think about, like, what is natural talent?
Right.
You know?
It challenges those assumptions.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you think about all the hidden advantages that we might be overlooking, right? And maybe there are ways that we could create environments that cultivate those advantages.
Exactly.
For everyone.
Yeah, and he gives an example of that.
Right.
He talks about a school that's defying the odds right here in the U.S.
Okay.
The KPP Academy.
KPP Academy.
In the South Bronx.
In the South
Which isn't really known for, like, the best schools.
Not really.
Yeah. So what makes it so special?
So KPP stands for Knowledge is Power Program.
Okay.
And their approach to education is pretty different.
Okay.
They have a longer school day and year.
Okay.
They really emphasize hard work and discipline.
Right.
And they instill this belief in their students that they can achieve anything if they put in the effort.
Okay. That sounds intense.
It is.
But is it working?
It's working.
Okay.
The results are incredible.
Okay.
These kids, a lot of them from disadvantaged backgrounds, are doing better than kids in wealthier schools.
Especially in math. They're showing that success isn't about your zip code or how much money your family has. Right. It's about creating a culture of achievement.
Yeah.
Giving those students the tools and the time they need to succeed.
Right. It's like they're taking those values of diligence and hard work.
Yes.
Like we were talking about with
the rice paddies.
Yeah, the rice paddies.
Yeah.
And they've applied them to education.
Exactly.
It's like they've built this environment where kids are learning.
Yeah.
But they're also developing those mindsets. Yeah, those habits, the mindset.
Gladwell was talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. This goes back to one of Gladwell's main points.
Yeah.
Success, it's not just about talent. It's not even just about hard work by itself.
Right.
It's about how those things interact with our culture.
Right.
The opportunities we get.
The opportunities, yeah.
So you're saying that if we understand these hidden advantages and create environments that
cultivate them.
Yeah, cultivate them, then we can actually give everyone a fair shot.
That's the takeaway.
Yeah, wow.
Gladwell's work really challenges us to think differently about success. Not just our own success, but the success of others.
Right, and to look beyond those simple narratives.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more complex than that.
Yeah, it's not just about, they're talented or they work hard.
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a really mind-blowing deep dive.
It really is.
I'm looking at success completely differently now.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how many times have we just assumed that someone's success is only because of their talent or hard work?
Right, without thinking about all the other things that might have contributed.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that success is rarely a solo act.
Right, it's like you need that individual effort, but it's all happening within this.
Yeah, a larger context.
A larger context, yeah.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, I'm curious, what are you thinking about now, listener?
Yeah, what stood out to you?
What resonated with you from all of Gladwell's insights?
Are you thinking about the opportunities you've had or maybe the cultural influences that have shaped your own journey?
Or maybe even how to create those KPP-like environments.
Yeah, exactly.
At work or at home.
In your own life.
Yeah, in your own life, However you're feeling about this.
Yeah.
I hope that this deep dive has sparked some ideas.
Some new ways of thinking.
Yeah, some new ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And just inspired you to think differently about success.
Absolutely.
Both your own and the success of others.
Because when we understand those hidden factors, we can create a world
where more people have the chance to reach their full potential.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
On this deep dive, and we'll be back next week.
Yes.
With another fascinating exploration.
We'll see you then.
Until then, keep those wheels turning.
Did you get any of that?